All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. So today I'm going to be discussing this interview that I saw earlier today. Maybe less of an interview, it's more of a, I guess you could say, a debate or a quasi debate. This was between Mehdi Hassan and I don't know what position exactly this gentleman holds, but he works with the AfD, which is the Alternative for Deutschland. It's a populist right wing party in Germany. Some people consider it to be far right, some people consider it to be an extremist party. Either way, this particular gentleman and this party basically took from the MAGA playbook and they're trying to recreate it, or I guess you could say replicate it, in Germany by putting their own spin on it. And I want to just say before I kind of get into this that I've been, you could say, on the right wing populist kind of bandwagon for the last year or so, give or take, since I started this channel. And honestly, I've become quite skeptical and disillusioned with the right wing populist platform or the right wing populist approach. And when I first started this channel doing the kind of like America First thing, um, hardcore immigration, restrictionist, pro mass deportations, that whole sort of thing, anti war, I was energized. I was optimistic. I was hopeful. And I genuinely bought into the rhetoric. I genuinely believe that people like Farage, Rupert Lowe, Donald Trump, all these other characters who are running on a kind of right wing populist platform were going to be the solution to restoring a sense of national identity to these nations, right? To the UK, to the United States, various other countries. I thought that these right wing populist parties were going to be the solution. That was the way out. That was the ticket. But as I've kind of moved forward, especially over the past year, I've moved away from that position. And the more I think about it, the more I begin to feel like a lot of these parties, they're really just containment. They're not proposing a radical solution. And ultimately, what really can you do, right? They're not proposing any kind of radical departure from the liberal democratic order. They'll do a couple good things here and there. They might do a couple tariffs. They might roll back some of the DEI stuff. They might increase deportations by 5 to 10%. But really, beyond that, nothing fundamentally changes. There is no restructuring to the economy. There is no there is really never any mass deportation program that ever gets fully rolled out. So, I mean, I don't exactly know what these parties are capable of doing outside of escalating the rhetoric. And that's one of the trends that I've kind of picked up on. It's like they'll escalate the rhetoric, they'll take the rhetoric to a 9, a 10, an 11. Case in point, Stephen Miller, talking about the iron laws of geopolitics. Trump talking about destroying a civilization. And then ultimately, they just chicken out and do nothing. They never put their balls on the table. Um, and all they do is really enrich themselves while sitting in the government. Trump backed off the mass deportation platform a couple months ago because he was worried about how it would reflect on the Republican Party in the midterms. And it's like, well, hold on. Are we doing this for the country or are we doing this for the Republican Party? Are we trying to deport 20, 30, 40 million people? Or are we trying to win in November? Are we trying to keep as many seats in the House as possible? Like, what are we really doing here? And it seems like you can only expect so much from these political operatives. And the answer to a lot of these problems is very straightforward. It's very simple. I've always been skeptical of the mass deportation approach. I don't think it makes sense to have 3,000 guys invade a neighborhood or invade a city doing these sweeping raids where they're inside these armored personnel carriers with their tactical vests on, jumping out, grabbing a bunch of Mexicans off the street with their children and throwing them in a truck and taking them to some, processing facility. I've never thought that this was the most effective way of deporting, 20, 30 million people. The most effective approach is enforcement through attrition, where you make it virtually impossible for these people to live here. You prevent them from owning or renting property, or you make it difficult. You make it difficult for them to get jobs. You make it difficult for them to open up bank accounts. Um, there was an act that was proposed called the Legal Workforce Act back in 2015. I believe it was by a representative from Texas. I forget his last name, but his first name was Lamar, and it's called the Legal Workforce Act. And basically, it was going to mandate that every single employer verify whether or not the people they're employing or people who are applying for the jobs are actual citizens of the United States or are here legally, who can work here legally. And of course, this is something that still has not been implemented at the national level. So it gives illegal immigrants basically a free pass, and they can work wherever they so choose and never face repercussions. And the employers who give these people jobs never have to face repercussions. We still haven't passed the SAVE Act. So it doesn't really seem like anything ultimately is going to change. We're still doing foreign wars. The war with Iran has not ended. Israel's campaign in the Middle East has not ended. We're about to launch an invasion into Cuba. We still haven't reindustrialized. We still haven't built a wall. So it's like, I'm very disillusioned. I'm very disappointed with the current administration. Not to say that it's all bad, but it isn't what I expected. It wasn't the transformative change that a lot of us were looking for. And I fear that this is also going to be the case with parties like the AfD, parties like Reform or Restore out in the UK. I don't know how much these particular parties can actually do. And these are your best options. These are your best tools, the best tools that you have at your disposal. It is these kinds of, national parties. So the kind of transformative change that I'm waiting for still has not arrived. And I feel like the solution is pretty straightforward. If you can get the Legal Workforce Act passed, if you can get the SAVE Act passed, good legislation that most Americans support, north of 80%, we could do some serious damage. We could really make progress towards improving the state and quality of life in this country. And we could also restore some honor to our country, for once. But it doesn't seem like these parties are really serious about this. They're not willing to do what is necessary to make these radical changes other than kind of paying lip service. So it's very disappointing. It's very frustrating. And I don't know exactly what the solution is. We'll see. We'll find out. But it really does come down to the personnel, and it comes down to taking up as much space in the government as you possibly can. And I know a lot of people talk about, taking things to these kinds of extreme measures, Caesarism, similar to what we saw in El Salvador, where Bukele issued a state of exception, and he's basically maintained that for like 4 or 5 years now. But he's effectively a dictator at this point, let's be honest. And there's a lot of people who think that that is what is necessary at this point in order to really turn things around. Of course, I mean, do I see that happening in the United States? No. Do I support that? No, I do not. Okay. I do not support that. I do not support any kind of undemocratic takeover of the country that never ends well. And I know a lot of people think that it would go well, and I know a lot of people think that that's the only viable path at this point. But no, I still believe that at this point there is alternatives. There is still hope, nonetheless. But it is going to require people who are willing to make these kinds of sacrifices, willing to go to bat against the media, willing to do whatever it takes to win, you know? So I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if these right wing populist parties are really the long term solution to our problems. Um, it seems though, you know, a lot of people support them. That's the good thing. I just don't know if they're viable at the institutional level, and I don't know if any of them can actually live up to their campaign promises. But anyways, that's all I have to say for right now. I want to get into this video and give you guys my thoughts on it. This is Mehdi Hassan, and this is his debate with Maximilian Krah. Like I said, one of these guys who works with the AfD out in Germany. So let's go ahead and get right into this.
Welcome to Head to Head. Maximilian Krah, thank you for joining me on the show tonight.
Thank you for inviting me.
For many years, we've wondered whether we should have the AfD on this show. You're top of the polls,
Yes.
but you're also considered to be an extremist party. That is the view, for example, of Germany's domestic intelligence agency, the BfV, which last year classified your party as a right-wing extremist organization, a designation that admittedly is on hold, it's on pause, while your party contests it in court. But 3 of your state party chapters were also classified as extremist. Your youth wing has since been disbanded. So when your critics say the AfD is an extremist organization, a racist far-right...
I wouldn't say they're extremists. Not the people in, not the center locus of these parties. I don't think the central node of these parties are necessarily extremists, but I think that they attract a lot of extremists and they have to constantly cut them down. The problem though is that too many of these people, and this like I said, this is another one of the problems that I have with these kinds of like right-wing populist parties. A lot of them don't understand optics. They don't understand kind of garnering, normalizing themselves, you know, making themselves palatable to mainstream audiences. That's the problem that these parties keep running into over and over and over again. And it's because they don't know how to walk the fine line. They can't walk the razor's edge, so to speak. And you end up having people like this gentleman here and his party, which is constantly under investigation from the intel agencies, and they have to shut down these, I guess you could say, more extreme factions of their party. But let's be very clear about something. Extremists, far right, at this point, I think everybody knows in 2026 that these words are now used as political weapons. These are blunt instruments used to destroy your credibility, destroy your reputation. You know, when people start getting into this far right extremists, it's like, okay, I get that, but you have to make that case. You can't just throw those labels out without any substantiation and expect us to believe it. Not at this point. And that's kind of where I'm at now. It's like I am willing to entertain different, more radical approaches to government policy in 2026 in the West. Like I'm willing to entertain these things, right? So when people start throwing out terms like extremist, far right, so on and so forth, I'm just like, what do they have to say? What is their platform? Let me read a manifesto. After that, then I'll determine whether or not this person is far right. But you got to get under the hood. That's why when people throw these terms around, I'm just like, yeah, goes in one ear and out the other.
threat to German democracy. They're not wrong, are they, based on the evidence?
They are, because the question is, are they...
Like, here's the thing, right? Threat to democracy. When somebody says threat to democracy, I mean, what is democracy? Democracy is rule by the people. And there's different tenets to it. Rule of law, free and fair elections, popular sovereignty, or rule by the people. What else? What are the other tenets of liberal democracy? Individual rights. You know, everybody is equal. Everybody has the same rights. Everybody has equal citizenship. Like, these are the tenets to liberal democracy. And so to say somebody is a threat to liberal democracy, or I guess is a threat to democracy, you have to prove the ways in which they're undermining these things. How are they undermining free and fair elections? Are they going to get rid of the right to vote? Well, they're using that in order to get into the government. How are these people undermining the idea of individual rights? Are they saying some people are entitled to certain rights that other people are not entitled to? If they're not saying that, then you can't really make that point. Are they undermining the idea of popular sovereignty? Are they saying that the government is going to exist, the regime is going to exist and rule over the country whether or not it has popular support? Are they undermining the idea of rule of law, where the country is governed by an impersonal legal system that holds everybody to the same standard? If not, then how can you say they're undermining the rule of law? It's like, if they're not undermining these different aspects of democracy, how can you say they're a threat to democracy? It's once again, it's like another one of these political attacks. How is Trump a threat to democracy? Trump says a lot of things. Let's be clear. Trump says he wants to run for a third term. Trump has said he doesn't respect the Constitution. I get it. It's bad rhetoric. It's terrible rhetoric to anybody who respects the kind of integrity of our system. But, and let's be clear about this, words and actions are not the same thing. Just because he says he doesn't take the Constitution seriously, or he doesn't believe it's his job to uphold the Constitution, just because he says he'll invade another country without getting approval from Congress, just because he says he will run for a third term doesn't mean he will. The one thing I will say is the war on Iran. I would say that that is an example of an unconstitutional action. I believe that it is, right? He didn't go through Congress, didn't get support from Congress. The conflict has gone on for longer than 60 days. Obviously, it went from February 28th until today. I mean, we just attacked them today. So it's still ongoing. And I know that 60 days, I believe 60 days is the cutoff for how long you can engage in a war without getting congressional approval. He never went to the UN. That's also a part of federal law. So you could say that he violates law or doesn't care about the law or procedure, you know, as much as a president should. He doesn't take it as seriously. So I guess on that front, he is violating democracy. But to say he's like a threat to democracy in this kind of like existential way, it's just not true. It's just not true. It's a political attack once again.
Completely objective, or are they politically instrumentalized? The intelligence get their orders from the Minister of Interior, and now look, we came and now we are the strongest party in the polls. We are in East Germany close to 50%. So our success costs a lot of jobs for established politicians. And now you have two ways. You can argue with us like we do today, so you can debate, or you can just say they are extremists, shut them up.
A poll came out last month from ZDF, very respected poll, found 72% of Germans say the AfD is a danger to democracy.
True.
That's 7 out of 10 Germans think your party is a danger to democracy.
We have to work. We have to.
I mean, 7 out of 10 Germans believe they're a threat to democracy, but let's be very clear. Everybody, this might sound cliche, but a lot of people are brainwashed. A lot of people just absorb what the mainstream media says and run with it and take it as gospel. I'm one of the few people who doesn't, you know, or I shouldn't say one of the few, but I am in the minority of people who don't take what the mainstream media says as gospel, as the objective truth. You can't. How can you in 2026 after everything, after C-19, you know, 9/11? I mean, the list goes on. The cover-up in Gaza. I mean, let's be very clear about something. How can you take what the liberal media says seriously? They are ideologically motivated just like every other political faction. So it's like when they say they're a threat to democracy and 7 out of 10 Germans believe they're a threat to democracy, it's like, well, most of these people are brainwashed by the regime. They just take what the liberal media says and run with it. And this is how it is in the United States. This is how it is in every Western country. Everybody just takes what the liberal establishment says as gospel and doesn't question it. So it's not surprising that 70% of the country believes they're a threat to democracy. Whether or not that's objectively true is a different question. You have to prove how that is true. You can't just say that it's true based on a poll. Like this is an appeal to the majority, I guess, appeal to popularity, you know. So it's like you have to prove how these people are a threat to democracy, because once again, this is an example of how these terms just become political instruments, blunt instruments, if you will.
Work and convince people that we are not. But if
And by the way, I am no fan of these far right parties. Let me make myself very clear. I'm no fan of any of these groups. I think that many of them are just, let's be very clear, they're just motivated by xenophobia. I get it. People throw that word around, but I do think that this is their like core ideology. Like they're not opposing Muslim immigration or immigration from different countries on any principled grounds. It is simply because they don't like their culture and they don't want that ethnic or racial group entering their country. So I think it's just primarily motivated by xenophobia. And, you know, I don't really respect these ideologies. I don't really respect these far right parties. But to kind of just jump on them and accuse them falsely of things, even if they do get certain things right, it's like, well, you know, I can't support that either at this point. I want to hear somebody posit a realistic solution to fixing our countries economically, demographically, industrially. Beyond that, I'm just like, with these kinds of political attacks, it's like, let me get under the hood and see for myself, inspect it for myself. You know, that's where I'm at.
Social media is telling the audience that we are a danger for years and years, then of course some people believe that.
Well, it's not just the mainstream media. Germany's domestic intelligence agency is saying it. And you're saying they're biased.
Yes, they are biased.
But that's weird, because when they were criticizing Muslim groups for being extremist, you cited them in your manifesto in 2017. You were fine to quote them.
Yeah, but sometimes we read what they write and then we say, okay, this is maybe biased and that is not biased.
Oh, the bit that's anti-you is biased, and the bit that's anti-Muslim is not biased.
It's a question of analyze. So they take the fact.
I mean, this is just brinksmanship. This is just political brinksmanship. It's like, I'm going to cherry pick what helps me, and then I'm going to discard what discredits me. Very simple. I mean, everybody does it. Come on.
And then they make an interpretation. And what they interpret as extremists in our case is a standard for politicians outside. So, I mean, look, we have in Austria the Freedom Party that in some parts is more to the right wing than we are. Yeah. And we don't talk about Donald Trump. But given the standards of the German domestic intelligence and taken to Donald Trump, I mean, he would be much more than extremist. So
do you think Donald Trump is to your right?
We are very close to Donald Trump. But
you've called yourself the German Donald Trump.
I didn't call, others called me that way, and I think it's flattering.
I think you introduced yourself to a journalist from The Spectator in that way. There are many watching today who will say that you, the German Donald Trump, are yourself an extremist. In the German intelligence agency's report on the AfD, you were cited hundreds of times by name. They said your view of humanity is incompatible with the German constitution. You are also famously on record saying, quote, "Not all members of the Nazi SS were criminals." Something so outrageous that even your own party, they kicked you out of their parliamentary delegation.
That's not completely right.
Well, Marine Le Pen, the French far-right leader, said, "That's too much even for me." And they cut off ties with you.
Even that is a simplification. Marine Le Pen always wanted to kick the AfD out of her group for several traditional reasons the French right has with Germany. And they needed a reason, or they needed something they could sell to the press.
You defending the SS?
No, I never defended. There was a lady and she told me, "Mr. Krah, you said we should be proud on our ancestors." Now, my grandfather was an SS.
Like, I don't understand. Like, you know, this is what I mean by these people are very unintelligent. It's like, you know that being anything right of center in Germany is illegal, virtually illegal, right? You're going to get the federal government jumping on you. You're going to get the German body politic jumping on you. You're going to get the media jumping on you. Like, you're going to get attacked from all directions. Even from within your own party, you're going to get attacked. So knowing that, why would you still go out and go to bat for the SS? It makes no sense. This is what I mean by these groups are just like, they're so stupid. All these people are so dumb. Like, they can't just keep it in their pants. They can't just like take it down a notch. Just focus on using your euphemisms. Patriotism, you know, assimilation, integration, um, focus on the working man, focus on immigrants taking jobs. Like, just stick to the basic talking points. Why do you have to start defending the SS? Why do you have to start defending the Nazis? It's like, what are you doing? You can't, you're not going to win the optics battle doing that. You're going to discredit yourself. It just looks horrible. But, at the same time, it's like, even then, even then, these people do have, I believe, 151 seats in the German parliament. 151 out of 630 in the German parliament, in the Bundestag. So, obviously their platform is very popular, regardless of the optics of it. So, I don't know. It's going to be popular with the 25-30% of the country that is disgruntled, disaffected, disillusioned with the status quo, and people who are just kind of motivated by resentment and grievance and want to just destroy the status quo and fight against liberalism. You have those people who just have this reactionary contempt for the current order. But I think if you want to break through to that larger 70%, yeah, you're going to need to kind of overhaul the optics of it. So,
soldier, what do you say to me? And then I ask, have you checked the case? Was he a criminal? Only from the given fact that he was member, I will not tell you that he was a criminal. And I mean, this is the praxis that even the Allied forces during World War II made for those cases. So when they captured an SS soldier, they asked,
are you a criminal organization, as you know?
Yeah, but the SS is a criminal organization, but not each and every one. You have to check, is he guilty? Is he a criminal? I never denied one German crime during the World War, but I say, but even then you have to check personal guilt.
Look who sits with you in the German parliament right now.
Yeah, like in 2026, nobody is, except a small contingent of people, nobody is standing behind that rhetoric. Like, it's just, you're not going to move the Overton window defending the Nazis, especially in Germany.
Matthias Helfrich, who called himself the friendly face of Nazism. Dario Seifert, he was a former member of a neo-Nazi group that's blacklisted by the AfD.
Is he a member of the parliament or is he an employee?
Dario Seifert.
He should be my colleague. I've never heard the name before, but maybe
he's a member of the Bundestag.
Okay.
He actually took Angela Merkel's seat in parliament, so people know him quite well. It's weird that
that's the guy, yes.
That's the guy, the former neo-Nazi group member. Then there's Bjorn Hooker, one of your party's most influential figures, the AfD leader in Thuringia, twice convicted in a German court for using the banned Nazi slogan, "Everything for Germany," which was the motto of Hitler's stormtroopers.
Good.
He said it twice, and then he said, it's wrong to portray Hitler as, quote, absolutely evil.
Like, why can't you just, I don't get it. Why can't you just replicate the MAGA or the Reform UK playbook? Like, why not just replicate that playbook? It's obviously a popular platform. Energy, mass deportations, working class, stopping legal immigration, fear-mongering about Islam. Like, why not just stick to that? You know what I mean? Like, that's already a popular platform as it is. Why do you have to dip your toes into the Nazi apologia? It like I said, it makes you look bad. You lose support doing that. I get it. They have 25 to 30% of the seats in parliament. They have a large share of seats. But it's like, the reason why this is the case is not because the optics of their party are particularly good. That's not why. It's because liberals in these countries shot themselves in the foot, and to their credit, the right capitalized by manufacturing a crisis about great replacement, about Islamic invasion, about illegal immigrants. Like, they capitalized on it. They pounced on it. They didn't missed the opportunity to use these things for votes. So let's be very clear. They're not winning because it became cooler to be far right. They're winning or gaining seats because liberals shot themselves in the foot. Let's be clear. Liberals are still the reigning ideology in these countries, but they dropped the ball on neoliberalist or neoliberal austerity measures, inflation, deindustrialization, mass legal migration, opening the borders to illegal immigrants, the welfare state. And all these other kinds of radical social ideologies. That's the reason why liberals have waned in popularity in the past 10 years since Trump, not because it's cooler to be far right. So let's understand that, you know what I mean? Liberals destroyed themselves. It's not that the right triumphed, they've just pounced on a series of mistakes that the left has made. But this kind of stuff does not reflect favorably on you.
There do seem to be a lot of Nazi sympathizers.
Yeah, but let's say, the audience can decide it. If I would say everything for the United Kingdom, then you would say, okay, it's a patriotic phrase. I was always interested in history. I didn't know that this was a special...
Yeah, but that phrase has baggage, so why are you using it? It's like, dude, like you guys, it's just dumb. It's just dumb.
Nazi slogan. And he said...
Well, he did. He's a history teacher.
Maybe. I would say we have a problem with free speech. The phrase everything for Germany was used
but
often
is this a
much
free
before
speech issue, or is this an issue that there's a lot of people in your party who like to play footsie with Nazis or with the Nazi period of history?
Maybe it sounds that way, but it's not the fact. I wouldn't say that this is typical. Look, we talk about immigration, we talk about demographics, we talk about economic development. And then, okay, the party is now more than 10 years old, and you will find such examples which I don't like. Those are bad examples. But you cannot judge a party by such isolated facts. You have to make a whole...
I mentioned two members of parliament, one of whom you conveniently hadn't heard of, and the most influential state leader of your party, Bjorn Höcke.
No, not the most influential. Come on.
Bjorn Höcke
Thuringia is a very small state.
He's seen as one of the most influential...
Yeah, in fact, he sees himself maybe...
In fact,
when you look up the AfD on Wikipedia, that Bjorn Höcke guy is like one of the first dudes to pop up. He's not a nobody. You can't, like, this is what I mean, like, oh my God, why are these people so dumb? And the worst part about it is he can't even defend the claim. He can't defend him saying those things. He can't defend him using those phrases. So now he has to kind of distance himself from these people or pretend like he doesn't know who these people are. And it's just like, you got caught. You got caught red-handed.
Weidel was asked, would you make him a minister? And she said yes. So we're looking at a future government minister as well, saying this stuff.
I tell you that he will not become part of the government.
How do you know that? Alice Weidel said she could be.
Yeah, he said she can imagine, but what shall you do? Imagine you're in a TV studio and they ask you after a member of your own party, then you don't begin to split your own party.
One of the biggest criticisms of your party's platform is the focus on what's called remigration, of getting rid of immigrants, which is a far-right concept coined by an Austrian extremist ally of your party who once stuck a swastika on a synagogue. It was in your party manifesto, the word remigration, last year. You have recently distanced yourself from it, I believe, having once been a champion of it.
No, I've never been a champion of it. I have made clear that I don't like that the concept is completely inexpensive.
Didn't the AfD get burned in 2023 because some of its members went to a conference and openly talked about, or I guess it was exposed from within, that they were discussing, as a matter of fact, I'll look it up, but that they were discussing ways in which you could remove naturalized German citizens from the country? Not just illegals, but naturalized citizens who were unassimilable. I'll just look it up. And I know that this was a big scandal. And this is what I mean. Like, these people just cannot help themselves. It was in Potsdam. The 2023 AfD scandal centered on a covert meeting in Potsdam where members of the Alternative for Germany, AfD, and neo-Nazi groups discussed remigration, a euphemism for the mass deportation of millions of immigrants and unassimilated German citizens. This sparked the largest civil society protests in post-World War II Germany. You see what I'm saying? And now he's doing this thing because he has to distance himself from it. This is what I mean with these people. It's like, just try to be normal. Just try to like get it under wraps.
Acceptable. My own wife is from Slovakia, so she is an immigrant. So you cannot tell me that I
Okay, but that's different. Let's not compare a Slovakian immigrant to a Muslim from Iraq. You know, it's not the same.
want to remigrate
Well,
my
I can't
wife.
actually.
I'm sorry,
No, no, no,
that is
hold on,
not
hold
the
on.
way it
The
works.
fact that
You're
your
not
wife
going to remigrate your own wife. No shit.
is an immigrant from Slovakia
Yes.
doesn't mean you didn't write a book about remigration.
I never
It
wrote a
doesn't
book about
mean-
remigration. I wrote a book on what it means to be right-wing, contemporary right-wing. The book on remigration was written by an Austrian, Mr. Zellner.
He came up with the concept and you endorsed it and pushed it. I just watched the interview with this afternoon where you talked to the interviewer, 2023 interview, only 3 years ago.
Yeah.
You said we should do it. We could give the right incentives. We should be doing remigration.
Yeah, but not to people who are nationalized. Of course, we have, look, Germany has the second largest number of refugees worldwide after Colombia. Of course, we have to take care that a large number of those people who came, who have not integrated in society, don't speak the language, that they go back into their home countries when the war is over.
You said this is about finding a path to raise the patriotic consciousness of the indigenous population again.
Yeah, but are you going to do that if they're citizens though? Because that's a whole different bag of worms. You know what I mean?
And to motivate migrants, this is 2023, to either assimilate or remigrate. That's Politics from the Right, a book you wrote in 2023.
In Germany, there are two meanings of the word remigration. You are right, there is one which is given by Mr. Zellner. And I clearly distance.
he's an ally of your party.
No, I clearly distance. It's not even allowed to members of parliament from our party to have joint events with him.
Hold on.
We
Why
don't
were
make-
3 members of your party at an event with him last month in Porto?
And we will clear that with them and we'll make them clear that this is not okay. True.
I think Zellner is the one who wants to devise a plan where you can denaturalize ethnic minorities who were born in these countries, second, third generation even, doesn't matter. It's based on ethnicity. Pluck them of their citizenship and deport them, which is, I mean, I don't even know how anybody with a conscience would stand by that. I certainly wouldn't. But I think that there's see, that's one element of remigration that I think is totally indefensible. There is, though, a different kind of remigration, which I do think is defensible. I do think that in the case of, say, for example, that Sudanese man who almost murdered that guy by trying to decapitate him in Northern Ireland at the beginning of the month, in a case like that, yeah, there's no reason why a guy like that should be in the UK. That guy belongs in Africa. You know, he belongs in Sudan. Here you have the Sudanese migrant yelling in a foreign language while trying to saw somebody's head off in the middle of the street, and then threatening to kill the radiologists when they put him in the medical vehicle. And the funniest part about it is this particular gentleman, this is why I say in a case like this, remigration should be on the table, because it's like, look, this gentleman was only brought into the country under Rishi Sunak's government because of a fast track scheme. And so in 2023, when Rishi Sunak was prime minister, there was 92,000, give or take, asylum claims or refugee claims backlogged when he took over, and he wanted to clear all of them out. And so what he did was he told the department that's responsible for overseeing immigration, I believe it was the Home Office, to reduce the standards and to kind of streamline the process to allow all 92,000, or to process all 92,000 of those asylum claims, with Sudanese migrants being prioritized in this process. And so that's how this guy gets into the country. Next thing you know, he's in the suburbs of Northern Ireland trying to take somebody's head off. And it's like, this is a clear example in which you should be able to get that person, revoke their asylum claim, literally take it away from them. You can put them through court. You know, you can make them go through the legal process. I think that you should. I mean, that to me is the right thing to do. You know, put them through the legal process, put them through the right legal channels, have them face the courts, after they rule in your favor, get this guy out of the country as soon as possible. I think in a case like that, you have every right to deport somebody from the country, but you can't just be like, hey, this ethnic minority who hasn't done anything wrong, yeah, we're just going to grab him and his whole family, even if they've been here for 2 or 3 generations, and just round all of them up. We're just going to raid entire neighborhoods in Berlin. We're going to raid entire neighborhoods in Germany full of ethnic minorities. We're going to go in their SS style and just start grabbing people off the street, grabbing people out of their homes, wage a terror campaign against them, and throw them out of the country, even if they've been there, like I said, for multiple generations. I mean, that is effectively Nazi 2.0 shit. It's what it is. So in the case of the first gentleman, it's like, I'd be willing to entertain that, in the name of literally just defending your country. You know what I mean? Just defending the integrity of your country. Yeah, deport that guy. There's no reason why a guy like that should be in the UK. But with innocent ethnic minorities, it's like, yeah, no, I can't. That's just, to me, is just beyond the pale. So I don't understand. Like, we all know the idea of remigration as understood by Zellner, as understood by people like Steve Laws. It is the maximalist approach. And in many cases, it isn't just enforcement through attrition. It isn't just we're going to make it harder for these people to get jobs, make it harder for these people to own property so that they self-deport, give them incentives. In many cases, it is we're going to have the state go in and literally rip these people out of the country and deport them. Like, that's insane to me. So I don't even know. We all know what remigration is generally. The first thing that comes to mind is not the traditional, let's just deport criminals or deport people who are here illegally. That's the traditional remigration position. Send them back to where they came. The traditional remigration position, as laid out by all these far-right, European nationalists, is we want to find a way, we want to devise a plan to take citizenship away from ethnic minorities born in these countries and deport them. You guys saw that interview that Steve Laws did with Andrew Gold. He told this Jewish guy who's been, and he looks white, this Jewish guy who looks white, who's been in England for 3-4 generations, he told him, yeah, I'd deport you to Israel. And it's like, this guy's not Israeli. He doesn't speak Hebrew. He's a citizen of the UK, citizen of England. And he said, I'm just going to deport your ass. Shit like that is where I just roll my eyes and I'm just like, yeah, I'm not interested. It's just like, that's not my cup of tea.
We made very clear that we don't allow joint events with Mr. Zellner in public.
You used to do events with him.
I met him from a publishing house. They had a big event where he was a guest and I was a guest. But look, I meet so many people. And of course, there are groups that vote us and they follow his movement.
What is your definition of remigration?
Remigration is the sum of all legal ways to bring people out of the country who don't have the right to stay there. So if you have criminals, they have to leave. If you have people who live only from welfare and don't want to work, they should leave. So all
that's
legal
migration.
This is what
criminals is what the Labour government does in this country. That's not controversial.
This is not controversial because the official definition of our party, what we as a party understand by remigration, was now judged by the German administrative court. And they said, in the way the AfD is using the word remigration, there's no problem with the constitution. This is why this extremism thing is now on hold. Because we have another,
as we mentioned earlier, one of your leading AfD leaders.
Who?
He said, Björn Höcke.
He's not leading, he's not even in the executive board.
He's the leader of your party in a German state. He said, without problem, we would also without problem be able to live with 20 to 30% fewer people in Germany. How do you get to 20 to 30% fewer people in Germany without deporting German citizens?
I don't know, he's a sports teacher, not a math teacher, ask him.
I mean, you literally can't.
I'm asking you. Do you accept that deporting 20 to 30% of the German public?
Look, once again, I don't know about his calculation. And this is not what is written in our manifesto. In our manifesto, it's very clear. Remigration is the sum of...
What is 20 to 30% of the German public? How many people is that exactly? I'd be interested. What's like with the population of Germany? 83.5 million. Roughly. A little bit less, but roughly. Okay, how many is 20 to 30%? Or no, we'll do... So 30% is about 25 million people. What is 20%? And 20% is 16,700,000 people. So tell me how you get to that exactly without the most draconian, I don't know, federal government crackdown in world history, you know. Basically creating a society where there is two tiers. You have the German people who are allowed to own property, own businesses, enforce the law, and then you have an underclass, the second tier, which are basically subordinate to the first class and are subject to having their livelihood and citizenship taken away from them at the drop of a hat by the upper class, the German people, who want to enforce these laws. Obviously, this is is insane.
All legally possible ways.
Remigration is a far-right concept that talks about deporting
Outside
citizens
Germany.
who are not assimilated. That is how Martin Selder has defined it. You can try and redefine it for this audience, but that's what it means.
Definition.
That's why it's always been a far-right term.
There is no multiple definitions. This is just copying out.
Zellner's definition, which is used here in Great Britain. In Germany, we have Mr. Zellner's definition, and we have a definition in our manifesto. And this is why I advise my party not to use this word.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that. You advised your party not to use the word, not because you don't believe in it, but because you know you'll get banned if you use it. It sounds pretty cynical.
We have more and more migrants in Germany who vote AfD. And I'm the champion. I made a lot of videos in which I made clear especially the Turkish community should vote AfD. The former Soviet community is already with us.
So let's talk about those immigrants. Why does your party leader, Alice Weidel, distinguish between Germans and passport Germans, she says? People who acquired German citizenship, weren't born with it.
She did
Will there
how
be two classes?
How many years ago?
Will there be two classes
How
of
many
citizens?
years ago?
She said it in 2019.
Yeah, this is 7 years ago.
And
she
then
never
since. Let me finish.
Never since.
Let me finish. Then in August 2025, last year, she was asked about it, and she defended the use of passport Germans in an interview with Welt.
Okay. So I only know the old thing. Okay, Mrs. Weidel.
I mean, she defended it, so what point is he trying to make? He's trying to say, oh, well, she said that 7 years ago. That's old. That's 7 years old. Mehdi says she defended it last year in an interview, and now he's saying, well, you got to understand. And it's like, come on, man. This is what it looks like when you can't stand on your square. You have to be able to stand on your square. This looks very weak. Very, very weak.
Is from Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
You will really tell me that the party leader who has a wife from Sri Lanka has a racist view on the world? I mean, come on, that's bull. When you have a wife from Sri Lanka who looks like Sri Lanka, then you are not a racist.
Okay.
It's obvious.
That's what you think racism comes down to.
Yeah, but I mean,
whether you have friends or family who are non-white.
It's obvious.
Really?
This is the way. I mean, this is the typical accusation we are fighting against.
Why did you say last year the equality of citizens based solely on a piece of paper that one holds is the founding myth of the modern state?
Because it is the way. The modern state says
there's not an equality between a Turkish German.
It's a complete equality. The myth or the basis of the modern state is that every citizen is equal.
Maximilian, this is what you said in 2023. When we talk about the people, das Volk, we are talking about a community of similars. When we talk about the people, it's far more than a political or legal category. It is a natural, biological, verifiable reality.
The German language has a problem. That das Volk means both the ethnic group and the citizenship.
No, it does not. No, it does not. And nobody uses it that way. And this is the problem with these people. You see what I'm saying? It's like they want to be fascists, but they also want to be liberals at the same time. And then they end up looking weaselly and incoherent. It's like, if you're going to say that the nation, das Volk, the people, is biological and genetic, then stand on that. But you can't then turn around and say, well, no, that's not really what it means. Das Volk, it means different things in German, and it's kind of a confusing word when you translate it to English, and there's some misunderstanding there. It can actually refer to the ethnic group that makes up Das Volk, the people and the citizens. It's like, no, no, that's not what that means. Anytime the word or the phrase Das Volk is invoked, it's always in reference to the German people, which is defined by heritage. It's defined by genealogy. It is strict. It is limited. That is how it is defined and understood. Not whoever has a piece of paper, whoever has citizenship, whoever was granted a passport, even though they immigrated from a totally different country and they now are a German citizen. No, that is not considered Das Volk. Those people are not considered Das Volk. No, they are not. This is what I mean. Like, it's cowardly. It's just cowardly. It's like stand on your square. Stand on your square.
Why did you say
German
it is not a
group and the
social
citizen group?
contract? It is something that is in the genes.
Literally.
In the ethnic
Do you understand
group.
why people worry when German
ethnic-
politicians start
the
talking
eth-
about the genes?
That's what I mean. Like, he wants to have his cake and eat it too. How do you define the people? How do you define the German people? Is this guy really going to go to a AfD conference and tell all the people in the audience that Das Volk, the German people, is meant to include Syrian refugees, Turkish immigrants, and Somalian asylum seekers? Are those like, give me a break. Nobody takes it serious. It's just, he's just lying. And this is what I mean. Like, they want to like jump in between. Like, one day they want to be liberal, one day they want to be fascist, one day they want to be based, one day they want to be woke and moderate. And they're always flip-flopping. Always flip-flopping. Where do you stand on these things? Who is the people? Who is the nation? Who is Das Volk? Who is welcome into this community? Who is welcome into this nation? Everybody, or is it limited to biology and genetics? It can't be both.
They are not Sydney Sweeney, but the point is very easy. You have ethnic group and you have the citizenship.
You mentioned a lot of migrants are voting for the AfD. Let's talk about Muslim Germans, a lot of Muslims in Germany.
Turks, for instance.
You have said that Islam belongs in Saudi Arabia, not Germany. And the 2026 manifesto for the state of Saxony-Anhalt, this year's big election, calls Islam a culturally alien religion. Islam does not belong to Germany. You know who used similar rhetoric about a religious minority in Germany back in the 1930s?
Please don't bring now Hitler.
Why?
Everyone wants to bring Hitler when there is a problem
Why?
in Germany.
It sounds to me like exactly how the Nazis spoke about Jews.
No.
I could point to you if you want.
I say Turkish Germans shall vote for AfD. I mean, what
The
religion
Jews
usually
are
Turks
not
have?
German. They are an alien people in our midst. That was Hitler's words. How is that different to the AfD manifesto? Islam is a culturally alien religion, does not belong to Germany.
Where
What's
is
the
it
difference?
from? Is it a state level?
It is the Saxony-Anhalt manifesto for this year from the...
Why do you have to question the integrity of the source? It's not like he's just pulling these out of thin air. I understand, like, the need to scrutinize these things out of fear that they're taken out of context, or out of fear that they're fabricated, I guess. But you know that in this context, he's not just making things up. You have to actually defend what you're saying. You have to defend the claims, the statements. Defend them to the audience. Make your case. It looks horrible when you're being attacked and all you can do is kind of divert and say, well, where is this from? Well, what year was that? Well, I don't know who that person is who said that, even though they worked for you 2 or 3 years ago and they were a personal contact of yours. It looks terrible. That said, I don't disagree. Islam does not belong in Germany. Not to say that Muslims can't live there, in small numbers, as an ethnic minority or as a religious minority. But let's be very clear. This is a Christian civilization. Germany is a Christian country. All of these countries are Christian in origin. So the idea that you're just going to allow millions of refugees from the Middle East to come here and replace your country's dominant religion with theirs is asinine. It's crazy. And of course, you need to assert your culture and defend against the imposition of a foreign culture on your state, which kind of breaks down national identity, breaks down culture uniformity, breaks down race relations, breaks down social trust, polarizes people politically, especially. And these people, let's be very clear, they have no attachment to the history of your country. None whatsoever. No attachment. None. They are not familiar with your country's history. They are not familiar with your country's culture, really, in any meaningful way. These are refugees. Okay, they're refugees. They are, I don't want to say guests, but they're still foreigners. Let's be very clear about that. They're foreigners, bottom line. So this idea that, oh, we're going to treat their culture as a culture that should have the same level of primacy and recognition as ours is nuts. Absolutely nuts. It's suicidal. It makes no sense. You can tolerate their culture. You can allow them to have their culture, have their mosque. That's fine. But there's no reason why you should say that our cultures, especially if you're an MP, our cultures are at parity at the national level. That's insane. If a Muslim came to the United States and said Islam and Christianity are at parity at the national level and should both hold the same level of cultural significance in America, I'd say fuck off back to where you came from. You don't belong here. Your religion doesn't belong here. You're lucky that we live in a liberal democracy where you're allowed to build a church. But you need to have some respect. Like, have some fucking respect. Know where you are. It's just, the entitlement doesn't make any sense to me. That's why I feel at times sympathetic to these people on the right, because it's like somebody has to put their foot down and defend the culture of these countries. These people did not build the country. Islam did not build this country. It is not native to the country. Just mind-boggling.
AfD. Are you going to spoke about Jews?
No.
I could quote it to you if you want.
I say Turkish Germans shall vote for AfD. I mean, what
The
religion
Jews
usually
are
Turks
not
have?
German. They are an alien people in our midst. That was Hitler's words. How is that different to the AfD manifesto? Islam is a culturally alien religion, does not belong to Germany.
Where
What's
is
the
it
difference?
from? Is it a state level?
It is the Saxony-Anhalt manifesto for this year from the AfD. Are you going to disown this as well?
But this year is no election in Saxony.
This is the 2026 manifesto. I'm reading from it now.
My constituency is in Saxony.
Like, as a Muslim, all you have to do is say, I recognize this is a Christian country. And I want this country to remain a Christian country. And you can practice your religion in peace. That is a perfectly legitimate arrangement. Totally legitimate. I don't see the problem with that. I don't get it. I don't know why anybody who's reasonable would have an issue with this.
Should know my manifesto, and I know that there is no election this year.
Saxony-Anhalt election, September 2026.
Saxony-Anhalt, this is another, okay.
I think
Thank you,
everyone here
Roman. I'm
heard
from
me say
Saxony, yes, it's
Saxony-Anhalt
another state.
multiple
I'm sorry,
times.
we have many states in
This is a
Germany, and I'm not
desperate-
able to
Can we
know
focus
all-
on the issue here? Hitler said the Jews were not part of Germany, they were alien religion. This is what the AfD is saying about Muslims today.
Not really. The
just
point
wanted
is
to-
we invite every German citizen to be part of it. We have meanwhile an organization that is called Migrants Within the AfD, which are very influential. The Kurds say, okay, we are not an extremist party anymore. Of course, our critics always bring points, even mistakes
the critics
we made,
did not write your manifesto,
mistakes we made.
Maximilian. The AfD wrote this manifesto saying Islam does
Then
not
I have
belong
to
in
check it,
Germany.
but I can tell
Do you
you
agree
something.
with that sentence, that Islam does not belong in Germany?
The manifesto was written by a scholar who speaks fluent Arabic, has a highly appreciation of Islamic
I
culture
think you need
and
to
Islamic
understand that
people.
it doesn't
I can
matter
guarantee
whether
that.
you have Muslim friends or you're married to Sri Lankans, racism is racism. These statements are racist. Let's go to our panel here, who are waiting patiently. I'm joined by
That's
Jeremy.
another one. Like, racist now, and here's the thing, right? The word racist, once again, it's another one of these blunt instruments. It's another one of these words that they throw around to kind of tackle you, maneuver you, put you in the villain category, delegitimize you. It's what the word racist means now. Is it really racist to say that Islam is an alien religion to Germany? Is that really racist? Not really. It's actually factually correct. It is an alien religion. It's not from that region. It doesn't originate in Germany. It is by definition alien. Now, the ways in which they decide to act upon that fact can be racist, but simply acknowledging that, no, I don't think that's racist. I mean, come on, what are we doing?
Knaus, chairman of the Berlin-based think tank, the European Stability Initiative. You heard us talking a lot about remigration. Maximilian says we've misunderstood it all. It just means deporting criminals. What's your response to that?
If the AfD is found to use Martin Sellner's term remigration, it can be brought to the Constitutional Court and be closed down. So it's very important for the AfD in its manifesto to write exactly the words that they were advised by lawyers. Maximilian Krah knows, as a lawyer, how dangerous it is for the AfD. So he's warned about it. Since January this year, AfD has continuously met Martin Sellner, inviting him to Thuringia, to the Landtag. Björn Höcke, whose party really this has become, Alice Weidel tried to kick him out once, she was unable. His party in Thuringia has invited Martin Sellner. Martin Sellner has made events in Brandenburg, where another AfD active politician, who's just been also in Portugal, has said Germany would do well with 20 million less people. And what the party in Sachsen-Anhalt is saying here is based on the most toxic myth in German, European, and Western politics today, the idea that there's a great replacement that needs to be reversed because it's an existential threat. I've lived in the Balkans in the 1990s. I've lived in Sarajevo. I've seen, after the Cold War, in Europe, how these kinds of ideas have led to ethnic cleansing, expulsions, and in the end, the genocide in Srebrenica. And when political parties talk like this, we need to be very, very careful because it's serious.
Before I let Maximilian come back in, let me bring in some other panelists here. I'm also joined by Ralph.
That's why it's probably not a good idea in general to allow a population of 10 million, 20 million. I don't even know how many there are in Germany at this point. It's in the millions. This is why it's not a good idea to allow millions upon millions of people who are very endogamous, I might add, from a different civilization, immigrate into your country and allow them to just be there without any assimilation process. It's like that, like on its face, it's not logical. It just doesn't make sense. Of course, it's going to lead to clashes culturally, just naturally.
Schulhammer, head of the Center for Applied History at the MCC, a conservative think tank in Budapest. Ralph, what's your response to what you heard from Gerald and from Maximilian about remigration, ethnic cleansing, Islamophobia in Saxony-Anhalt?
I mean, I can give you easily a handful of quotes from the National Socialist Economic Program, and you will find people on the American and European left and also on the right who would agree with it. So it's a little bit of a gotcha game. But secondly, the term remigration was coined as the description of Jews after World War II going back to the countries they fled from. That is the historic origin of the term. And by the way, remigration is happening as we speak. Germany is now the country with the second largest refugee population. The reason why it's no longer Iran and Turkey that they no longer have a larger population than Germany is because people are leaving Iran back to Afghanistan, 2.2 million, and people are leaving Turkey back to Syria.
Do you believe that German citizens should be quote-unquote remigrated?
No, but when Alice Weidel speaks about passport Germans, I think we have to keep in mind how did naturalization laws change in Germany over the last couple of years. There was a term not coined by me, by the German government, so-called turbo naturalization. So they created quotas. I think in Berlin it was 40,000. That is, that 40,000 people every year need to get citizenship. So this was no longer tied to people integrate, they learn the language.
See, that's another thing. It's like I said, with these fast track schemes, I already mentioned Rishi Sunak and that Sudanese gentleman, but it just creates horrible incentives. It just creates terrible incentives for the government. And it just has there's all these other negative externalities. You know, when you facilitate and conduct immigration in this manner, it's just like, You need to have high standards. You need to have high standards, and you need to manage tightly how many people are coming in. You can't let them immigrate and then not assimilate and form an ethnic enclave, and that's it, where they're create a parallel society. It just it doesn't make sense.
Which they become part of society, that we need to meet a number, therefore they have to become citizens.
Gerald is shaking his head. Is that correct? Incorrect? Do you agree?
Well, no, it's incorrect. The German law is very clear. The turbo naturalization citizenship was for some people extremely qualified, the Japanese or the Indian engineer who is in the country and who after 3 years should get it. Very few people got it. What we have in Germany is a system where after 5 years, and a lot of refugees came more than 5 years ago, there are some conditions as well. But the reality is that Germany has had a lot of refugees who've been given protection.
I need to bring in Deborah, who's been waiting patiently. Deborah Feldman is a German-American writer, political commentator. The AfD is soaring in the polls. They may secure their first state premiership in Saxony-Anhalt in September.
Thank you.
As an immigrant and a Jewish woman living in Berlin, how concerned are you about the rise of the AfD in Germany?
Well, I'm a passport German, but I got my passport on the basis of my Jewish great-grandfather, who was actually the son of an ethnic German Catholic who had an illegitimate child with a Jewish woman. As a result of this, he was expelled from the German Volk. So in a sense, I'm a product of what Mr. Krah has referred to as mixed culture. I already feel uncomfortable in Germany before the AfD is in power because I am a progressive and anti-Zionist Jew. So the liberal mainstream in Germany is very narrow and expels anything that doesn't belong. So my unease is already great and is, of course, increasing with the approach of
proving him right.
If you say that the liberal mainstream is narrow and they blame everyone of extremism, like even you from the left side, and they do with us, so that is for the auditorium, you see, everyone is extremist who's not mainstream. I mean, it's very easy.
What do you make of Maximilian's position that remigration now is not the definition? He's not a fan of the concept. Do you buy that?
You've very openly said that you understand it is not strategic to maintain these convictions publicly, and I understand you want to bring your party into the mainstream. You would like to have access to the power that the mainstream now has access to. What you've said about Jews in Germany is the Israelis are great because they're ethno-nationalists defending their borders. The current Jews in Germany have nothing to contribute, and most of the Jews are left and basically communist. That is your ideological attitude.
Maximilian, briefly respond.
I was the last. I mean, if you have seen my Instagram last weekend, you are so well prepared.
Have you read the comments on your Instagram?
Let him make a point.
Last weekend, I was at a wedding on the Côte d'Azur where my good German Jewish friend Yotam, who got the German passport the same way like you because his great-grandmother came from Germany and he had to leave because of the Nazis. He came back and became German. He married his German bride. So, and now you tell me I have something against Jews in Germany. That's complete nonsense.
You said earlier you want more migrants voting for the AfD, more Turkish. Do you think there are too many Muslims in Germany?
I look after the different groups that come. And I
that
think
was a very simple question that you couldn't answer.
If I ask a Turk, do you want to have more Syrians? Then he said, of course not. If I ask him, what about your Turkish cousin? Of course, yes.
That's great, but
to say
we're
that
not asking the Turkish or Syrians. I'm asking you, Maximilian
I don't like the phrase that we put all the Muslims in one basket.
Do you think there are too many Muslims in Germany?
From today, I
don't know what's going on up there. It's a very simple question. Are you thinking of the political? Are you worried what your base is going to say? Do you think there are too many Muslims in Germany?
If I would now get the answer, can we take young people from Tehran to Germany who are formerly Muslim?
I understand you're
yes,
a politician,
but
and you answer a question with a question, but I will ask it again.
I don't want to
Do you think there are too many Muslims?
Is there too many Muslims in Germany? I don't know. I don't exactly know how you would qualify that. It's a very strange gotcha question. It's really, the question really should be long-term. How do we establish an order socially where Muslims and native Germans can coexist peacefully? That ultimately should be the question. It's not, is there too many? How do you even prove that? Is there too many Muslims? I mean, what would be the cutting point or the cutoff point? Like there needs to be a compromise that is made, because this is the thing is, like, a liberal democracy and a liberal social order works when the country is homogenous and it's high trust and everybody is a part of a similar culture, everybody is a part of the same ethnic group, everybody kind of shares values and beliefs, everybody is familiar with the history of the country, everybody's kind of familiar with the norms of society. Liberalism and a liberal climate works in that, under those circumstances. But when you have a massive influx of Muslims from Syria and Somalia and Iraq and Yemen and elsewhere, and Africans, the list goes on, the liberal high trust society begins to break down, because now there's clashes of religion, clashes of culture, clashes of values, clashes of belief. And these values and beliefs and cultures are now being imposed. And there needs to be a kind of renegotiation, I would say, a renegotiation that allows for racial harmony again, right? I always point to Singapore, because Singapore is an example of a country in which they've managed to succeed in fostering a kind of harmonious multicultural country, multi-ethnic, multiracial, multicultural country. Britain has not managed to do that yet. And the problem is it even possible without using authoritarian means, kind of using federal power to force assimilation or force integration by breaking up ethnic enclaves? You get the idea. But of course, this would go against or violate the spirit of the country, because it is a country that believes in liberalism, freedom of association, allowing people to form their own communities as they choose, as they wish. But the problem is you're going to have a situation where there is this massive black hole at the center of society, and you're just going to be living in the state of constant polarization for God knows how long, until there's an eventual collapse, or until somebody who is more extreme or more authoritarian or willing to take radical measures comes to power, because people will be desperate for it. So yeah, there needs to be a renegotiation, I would say. And there needs to be some kind of process where you can remove people, at the very least, remove people who are radical from the country, remove people who don't assimilate, remove people who are simply just there on welfare, hogging up resources. Maybe not don't assimilate, but remove people who are radical, remove people who are affiliated with criminal enterprises or terror enterprises abroad. Like I said, people who are there on welfare. Like, there needs to be a way of kind of making it known, making it clear that there is a certain way in which things are going to be done, and you're going to have to get on board with it. Like, some order needs to be restored, in my opinion. And you can't just go around throwing people out of the country, deporting people out of the country, because it's like that's a slippery slope. And I feel like that creates more problems than it solves. But there does need to be a process by which, like, I don't know, like, you can't have a society where a guy like Vikram Digwa can be walking around with a knife, and native white Brits or people who aren't Sikh, just in general, have to walk around with no weapon on them, but this guy who's Sikh can have a weapon on him because of his religion. You can't allow that. Like, you have to assert British culture on these people using the state. I don't know what else to say. And that has to be the norm. That has to be the way that things are ordered. Like, why? It can't just be everybody has to just like tolerate foreigners flooding their country and not assimilating. It's ridiculous. Like, why should we expect it to tolerate that? Why? What other country would tolerate this? It's like the country is already being gracious enough by allowing you to live there. They're already being gracious enough by allowing you to own property, make money there. But now you want to impose your culture? It's like, well, hold on. You know, like there has to be some order, in my opinion. Lord have mercy. Because otherwise the whole society is it's just going to be polarized forever. Literally forever. That's what we're seeing right now.
In Germany.
Which kind of Muslims?
So that's why I'd prefer some top-down structure, like some structure. Like you have to weed out the far left types. You have to weed out the radical Islamists. You have to weed out people who are just totally hateful about the country. Hate Britain, hate whites, hate the history of the country. Like just have no respect. Like I'm sorry, people like that, they don't belong in these countries. They just don't belong there. In my opinion. Now, what you do with these people is a separate question. That's where things get tricky, because then you kind of run into all these legal problems with government overreach and targeting people based on ethnicity or religion, which gets very dark, very, very bad. But people who have a history, whether it's their social media, whether it's the organizations they're affiliated with, their politics, people who are, especially if they're Muslim, people who are just absolutely hateful and absolutely antagonistic towards British culture, British people, the nation itself. I feel like there has to be a way in which the government can disenfranchise those people or disempower them politically. Like there has to be some mechanism, and they have to know their place. They have to know what time it is. I really do feel that way. The problem is I don't know exactly what the solution is because I'm not in government, but I would like to see something like that personally.
You tell me.
I have no problem if you say we have now 10,000 young people from Tehran in Iran who come to Germany for study and having no problem with them. I don't want to have 10,000 Somalis. Okay? It's a difference.
You don't like Somalis?
I know the data, and I know that how Somalis perform in Western countries, and I know how Iranians perform in Western countries. Both are Muslims. Do I have a problem with Iranian Muslims? No, I don't have. Do I have a problem with Somali Muslims in Western countries? Obviously, I have.
So I'll ask you one last time. Do you think there are too many Muslims in Germany?
I think the question can't be answered because there are not. You cannot put all Muslims in one basket. I think that is not correct to say that.
Let's end on a point of agreement. We shouldn't put Muslims in one basket.
Of course not.
Yes, so you should chat
You
to
have
your
to
friend
distinguish.
in Saxony-Anhalt.
I will tell him your regards.
We will take a break there. That is the end of part one of Head to Head. When we come back, we're going to talk about some of the AfD's foreign policy controversies. Don't go away. Coming up very soon. Welcome back to Head on Al Jazeera. I'm joined by Maximilian Krah from the very controversial AfD party in Germany. We've been talking domestic politics, some of the immigration rhetoric, Islamophobic rhetoric in part one. Let's talk a little bit about some of the foreign policy controversies associated with your party, and you in particular. Maximilian, in 2025, your former European parliamentary aide, Jian Guo, was sentenced to nearly 5 years in prison for spying for Chinese intelligence in what prosecutors called an especially serious case of espionage. A German court found that he collected information on AfD leadership, on European Parliament negotiations. He spied on Chinese dissidents. When your colleagues in the AfD came to you and raised their concerns about this guy working for you who's a good friend of yours. You dismissed them as racist. How could you have been so naive to have a Chinese spy in your office?
First of all, indeed, it shows that I'm not a racist at all, because he was a friend and I hired him. I'm a lawyer by training. I wanted to see evidence. And my party colleagues at that time, when they came and said he is a spy, they had no evidence. The only evidence was that he had Chinese origin. And that is not a base to fire someone.
Completely agree with you. There are also some Germans working for the Chinese government.
Oh, indeed, yeah.
You've been accused of working for the
No,
Chinese
I was
government.
never accused.
Actually, you are currently under investigation by the German authorities.
But not for working for the Chinese government.
No, for taking bribes from the Chinese government. Payments allegedly facilitated by your former aide.
And they didn't find any cent. Nothing.
That investigation is ongoing, isn't it? It hasn't been closed.
They raided my apartment and they found nothing. The point is that the German state has a very small mainstream and is very radical against everyone outside of this mainstream. I have a colleague of mine, Mr. Bistron, who had 23 raids in his apartment as a member of parliament. That is Germany, by the way. I only had one, so you see how harmless am I. And they found nothing.
But do you understand why people might not take your denial seriously, given you did have a Chinese spy working in your office?
I was obviously the victim of espionage, so that is something different than to be a spy, isn't it?
You deny taking bribes from the Chinese government?
Of course I deny. It's complete bullshit.
Okay, you don't take money from the Chinese government, you say, but you're happy to push Chinese government talking points. In the European Parliament, you voted against a resolution for China to stop suppressing the Uyghurs. You call the accusations anti-Chinese propaganda. On the 70th anniversary of Chinese rule of Tibet, you congratulated China for being proud of what they achieved in Tibet. You were also vice chair of an EU-China lobbying group that disbanded after an investigation.
I mean, I get all of that doesn't look great. It doesn't reflect kindly on the man in question here, but it's like, this is also bad faith by Mehdi. Like, this is bad faith. It's like, you're saying allegedly being accused of taking bribes from the Chinese government, but you don't have a conviction. You don't have any direct proof. You don't have video. You have nothing other than allegations. And he's saying it as if these things have already been proven in a court of law, and they have not. It's under investigation. He said that when he began making these accusations, or when he began laying out this, the investigation that's ongoing with this gentleman. So it's like saying them as if these things are all verified, as if all of this is confirmed. It's bad faith. It's bad faith. And I could easily see a scenario in which, like I said, there's obviously a different way. There's different standards that are applied to people on the quote-unquote far right and the far left. Different standards are applied to them versus people who are in the German mainstream, obviously. So I could very easily, and all of us should know this by now, I could very easily see a scenario in which these people are being targeted by the intel agencies. Very easily seeing it being politically motivated, looking for a reason to throw them in jail, looking for a reason to put them in court, looking for a reason to delegitimize them. Is it really that hard to imagine the ruling establishment of a country trying to find any vulnerability on their political opposition? Is it really that crazy to think that people who are associated with the regime in Germany would be looking for any way possible to lock up their political opposition or find dirt on them? Of course that's not unreasonable. That's how it works. That's how politics works. People use every tool in their disposal to discredit you, to destroy you. Whether it's lying about you, whether it's using the media, whether it's going after your family, whether it's bringing up dirt from your past, whether it's getting the intel agencies after you. Anything to discredit you, anything to put you behind bars. Everybody knows that this is how it works. This is how the people in power stay in power. By going after everybody else, using every mean that they have, going after all their political enemies, using whatever means are at their disposal. This is how the people in power stay in power. By crushing anybody who challenges it, obviously. So all of these different kinds of accusations, until they're proven beyond a shadow of a doubt, you can't take them seriously. Do all these things look fishy? Why is this guy the vice chairman of a organization that is friendly with China? I don't know. But that's a separate thing from saying he's working for China. That's not the same thing. You're jumping a few steps there, you know? So it's just like you can't take these people seriously. They'll do anything to destroy you. Think about what they did with Trump in 2016, with Russia in 2020, with everything else that was going on. And we all know Trump is corrupt. Okay, there's no doubt about it. All right, that's been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. But still, they will drum up anything to get you out of power so that you're no longer a nuisance. So it's just like you got to take this stuff with a grain of salt.
Ties to the Chinese Communist Party. So whether you're paid or not, bribed or not, your critics would say you are pushing a Chinese government line.
No, I don't. The European Parliament has to every major country a friendship group, also to China. So I was a member of. Why? At that time, China was the biggest trade partner of Germany, and sometimes it's good to be friend with the biggest trade partner, because especially when you're an export nation. So there's nothing wrong with it.
Maximilian, did you go to Xinjiang and visit detention centers where Uyghurs are held?
I never visited Xinjiang.
Okay, but you're a defender of the Chinese government treatment of Uyghurs.
But look, I know that there is a lot of
free.
propaganda on the way. Don't trust an information given by some Soros-funded NGO until you double-checked it. I mean, this is the difference I have with Mr. Knaus, who comes from a Soros-funded NGO. I only believe him if I double-check his facts. And usually, Soros-funded NGO facts are just lies.
Multiple human rights groups have documented
Who pays
what's
them?
happened.
Who pays multiple human rights
don't know.
groups?
Are you
Who
accusing
pays
them of
NGOs?
being-
Why Donald Trump defunded the USAID?
Maximilian, out
because he
of
knew it.
Amnesty International and you're the one being investigated for taking bribes.
They can investigate me as long as they want. They will not find anything.
So-
an investigation does not make me guilty.
I didn't
mean,
say
this
it
is
was.
now
Let's
free
talk
to-
about Russia
and
as well,
found
because
nothing.
you've got some issues there. President Putin has praised your party, the
course.
AfD. He's called, your party's called for an end to sanctions on Putin's Russia.
Of course.
You yourself and another AfD colleague are currently being investigated by the German authorities.
That I don't agree with. This is where he and I differ. I don't support weakening Europe by bringing it under the thumb of Russia. I support strengthening Europe by elevating it above Russia. This is why. Why just surrender so much civilizational power to Russia? It makes no sense. This is a country, I mean, you can have normalized relations with them in some capacity, but to just totally bring them into the kind of, Western alliance? No. No. I don't support that. I think that we need to maintain this kind of NATO US hegemony kind of paradigm. And we should try to maintain a balance of power between us, China, and Russia. That's what I personally think. And I think that you can play them off of each other. I think it doesn't need to be we ally ourselves with Russia, or because let's be very clear about something. They have expressed on multiple occasions hostility to the West. They can't be trusted. They're a country that sees itself as having a civilizational destiny comparable to China and the United States. They've made this very clear on multiple occasions. They see themselves as a great power that is in a temporary state of defeat, but only temporary. So no, I don't support this whole let's empower Russia and let's let Russia rise and let's have economic and military parity with Russia. And no, I don't support that at all. Russia is a declining power. Russia is an aging country that is run by thieves. It has some of the highest corruption rates in the world. Their average life expectancy for men is like 67. They're not an innovative country. They're not competitive technologically. So there's no reason really why we should subordinate Europe and all the countries in Europe to Russia. Why? What for? When we can empower Europe, empower ourselves, and arrest even more power from Russia and subjugate them. There's no reason why we should just allow Russia to compete with us. It doesn't make sense. I don't support it. I mean, I get it. People want to normalize relations with Russia. They want Europe and Russia to have a closer kind of relationship. But, I generally just don't think that that's not the power play. I want to go for the power play, personally.
Wait for it, allegedly
No, I'm not
receiving
investigated.
bribes
You are,
from
this
the Russian
time you're
government.
wrong. I'm not investigated. No, there is no case against me, not even an investigation.
So the Dresden Public Prosecutor's Office
It's called a pre-investigation. This is a new. You know what a pre-investigation is?
Like what I'm saying is, why just hand over free power to Russia? Like, okay, I get it. Crimea is effectively Russian territory at this point. Got it. It's not internationally recognized, but they control it, to be fair. And then there's one other, I think, is it Luhansk or Donetsk, which is like 98 to 99% occupied by Russia. But like Zaporizhia, Kherson, Kharkiv, is it Donetsk? I don't know, but there's still several provinces in Ukraine, or oblasts in Ukraine, and Russia in those specific oblasts, they only have what, 65 to 70% of that territory occupied at most, and they're still fighting it out, and it's been 4 years. They haven't really made any progress. So why should we just allow them to take, 19% of Ukraine's territory if they're still willing to fight and defend their homeland? Why just give that territory to Russia for free? For free, literally for free. After willingly going against the liberal international order. Why would we just allow that? Doesn't make sense to me. Why just give them that? Hand that over to them. Even though they haven't even won yet. You know what I mean? It's so weak. Like it's such a weak foreign policy. That's my problem with it. It is a weak foreign policy. Say what you want about neocons. That was a foreign policy of strength. I don't support this. Let's just hand over free shit to Russia, just because. Like, no, why? Why would we do that? I don't understand that. Like, we need to be strong in the world. We need to be strong and forceful. We beat them already. We beat Russia already in the Cold War. And now we're just going to give up those gains? To me, I don't get it. Like, I don't see Russia as that much of a threat. So I don't understand, like, what the logic behind, like, let's just allow Russia to rise. Let's build Russia's economy. Let's make Russia even more powerful by allowing them to export all their oil and gas to Europe. Let's take off our sanctions on all these state-owned Russian corporations so that the Russian government can use the money that it gets after lifting the sanctions to build up their military and invest in AI. Like, why? Why? What for? Why would we do that? Why would we allow them to just rise? We already did that with China. Why are we going to do it with them? I don't get it. I don't understand the logic to this. I just don't get it. It blows my mind.
They don't have the evidence. They
I
don't have the
called it a
evidence
preliminary
to make an
investigation.
investigation. And now they say, now we do for the press 1 month before election. Oh, it's a pre-investigation to interfere into elections. There is no investigation. There is just a statement to the press to bring people.
It's just sorry to ramble on that. It's just like, it's weak. Like, I want a foreign policy of dominance, of strength. NATO is strong. Like that is coming from a posture of strength. The invasion of Iraq, as disastrous as it was, that was coming from a posture of strength. I want to come from a posture of strength in the world, not subordination. I don't get it.
People who believe there's nonsense not to vote for me, but it doesn't help, so they vote for me.
But it doesn't help that, again, your party is super close to Russia. Your colleague,
we are close to
your
America.
colleague Marcus Frohnmayer was described in a leaked Russian intelligence email, our absolutely controlled MP in the German parliament.
And you know that this leak is correct. You know, sorry, that is not
his
proven.
assistant was accused of launching false flag attacks in Ukraine. What is up with assistants to German MEPs and MPs from the AfD?
I don't know his assistants, I know him. The point is the German government has no arguments against us. So they produce one after the other such fake accusations. And then for us, all our voters know that it's fake, so they don't react anymore because we know there is the next fake story because they don't have an argument. There's a poll, we have 29%, then there's the next fake story, then we have 30%, then there's the next fake story. They don't learn it. People want to go into politics and we have the best concepts in foreign policy. That's why people vote for us, by the way.
Let me bring in Gerald Knaus, who you mentioned. He's the director of the think tank European Stability Initiative.
Soros funded.
Gerald, do you want to respond? A lot of attacks on you tonight. Do you want to respond?
Soros funded.
Well, last week I was in Ukraine. I spent the night in a shelter because Ukraine for 4 years has been bombed by Putin. In St. Petersburg, leaders of your party have made very clear they want a Europe in which Germany and Putin's Russia cooperate again, and that means at the expense of other European nations. No. Putin, who's been threatening the Baltic states, who's been threatening Poland, who's been threatening Moldova, and who's waging a brutal war in Ukraine. You want to lift the sanctions. Your party leader has said Vladimir Putin is not. He doesn't think he's a war criminal. For other European nations that have for the last 80 years relied on Germany to be a pillar of the European structure of peace, to see your party come close to power in that country that justifies the methods of Vladimir Putin means that very soon Danes, Poles, Baltics, Belgians and other Europeans need to be afraid, because your approach is that a man who uses force to change borders, that a man who denies the nationality is an ally.
Let me just put a direct question. Do you see Vladimir Putin as an ally?
Not as an ally.
How do you see him?
He's the president of Russia.
Okay. Great.
I mean, come on. This is what you hear now is nonsense talk because
Maximilian, is he someone you like or admire?
Look, I'm a politician. I'm not here to tell you I like you.
Is he someone you want to work closely with? You answer a question.
Germany has traditionally and should have cultural, economic exchange with Russia. It makes no sense to have an endless war. Who wins in an endless
war? Would an AfD government host him in Germany? He's an indicted war criminal suspect for the ICC.
We should host every politician worldwide who represents important states because we need diplomacy to end wars. The solution.
This is weak. 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 They're not in a position of leverage. They're not. They're simply not. The country is destroying its economy in this war. They've lost hundreds of thousands, if not more, people in the past 4 years. Support for it is declining in Russia. And we were told that they were going to take all the way up to Kyiv. They were going to take half the country, and they've taken 19%, and it isn't even a solid 19%. So why the weakness? Why let's just give up and let's hand it over? There's been wars that have gone on for decades, longer than 4 years. If Ukraine can fight it out, let them fight it out. Men have died in wars throughout all of human history. That's what it is. Men go to war and fight and die. It is what it is. It's too bad, so sad. These men are fighting for the future of their nation, and we're just going to hand it over to Putin because we want cultural and, economic ties with Russia because, Germans and Russians are best buddies? What? Fuck that. Fuck that. That's just weak. That's just weak.
Is an endless war with billions of pounds going to Ukraine. And if you want to end the war, you have to talk to people. Stop this war and not making points. They are evil. We don't like them. There is a big crime. The crime is to continue this war. So you have no solution. We have a solution.
Dare I ask?
Why is it a crime to continue the war if the people in Ukraine are still willing to fight? Still willing to fight and die for their homeland? What makes you the arbiter of when a war should stop? You're not in any position to determine that, sir. If they want to keep fighting, let them keep fighting. That's not your call to make. Oh, it's so sad. We're sending billions. We need to end the war. It's a tragedy. Well, that's Russia's fault. They should have never invaded. They're the ones who invaded. Blame that on them. Blame that on Putin. Why are we just going to hand them a free win? It makes no sense. I'm tired of these people. It's ridiculous. This kind of just pathetic defeatist mindset. It's parasitic.
What is your solution to Ukraine?
Immediately join Donald Trump's peace process and stop giving European money.
Miserably failed to do a peace
No,
process
he
in
didn't
Ukraine.
fail because the Germans paid.
He did fail. He absolutely failed. He said he'd end it on his first day in office, and he didn't. He did fail. It's been how many months? It's been what? 16 months? He came in what? January of last year, February, March, April, May, June. Okay, it's been 17 months since Trump came to power. Still hasn't ended the war. It's been a year and 5 months. So he did fail multiple times, I might add.
To continue the war instead of following Trump's approach.
Let me bring in Ralph Schulhammer, head of the Center for Applied History.
What are you following Trump for? What has he accomplished?
At the Matthias Corvinus Collegium, a conservative think tank in Budapest. A lot of far-right parties in Europe have been accused of being too close to Russia and Vladimir Putin. Marine Le Pen's National Rally, Viktor Orban in Hungary, who just lost. Do you think it's going to cost parties like the AfD in the medium to long term to be seen as so close to Vladimir Putin?
No, absolutely. I think this is a problem, but I think we should be fair in our comparison. It is true, right, that the AfD believes there should be direct contacts with Russia. By the way, Sigmar Gabriel, the former socialist minister, just came out yesterday and said the same thing. If you look at trade of the UK, of Germany, of France, of Italy, with countries in Central Asia, you will see in 2022, they skyrocket. So either it is that Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan all of a sudden need all these machines from Germany, or it is that they simply buy them in Germany and then sell them to Russia. So what's happening is European goods, particularly in the machinery industry, still reach Russia. It's just via Central Asia. And the European Union knows this very well. Second, very quick question. Who was really doing the bidding of Vladimir Putin? Who was behind Nord Stream 2? Who banned fracking in Germany? Who decided to close down the nuclear power plants, which all played into the hands of Putin? That was not the AfD because they've never been in government. And what you said, you're correct. You said 80 years. But until 2022, every European politician was lining up in Moscow to do business with Putin. So now all of a sudden they have discovered that this is wrong. Good for them. But that's a new position they've taken.
That's fair.
Yeah, no, he's not wrong about that. I'm looking at this from the perspective of an American. That's why my relationship to this is a bit different, because I don't want them to rise. But I could see why, as a German and as a European, you'd have a different perspective on this. But he's not wrong. Like, I know Angela Merkel, she did start Nord Stream 2, and then I think, what's the guy's name? Olaf? Something Olaf. And the chancellor, whenever the war started, he was the one who stopped construction on Nord Stream 2. But Angela Merkel started it. Angela Merkel also basically almost completely banned fracking in Germany. So Angela Merkel also was behind that. And Angela Merkel was also the one who shut down the nuclear plants. So, but I remember when Angela Merkel was the chancellor, Germany was allowing Russian state-owned corporations to buy oil facilities in Germany, like literally own them. And this became a big scandal when the war broke out, because it's like you're allowing Russian entities to own property, own oil infrastructure in your own country. And the government of Germany had also set up long-term contracts with these different Russian, oil and gas monopolies. So he's not wrong. Prior to the invasion, they were doing business with Russia to the tune of billions of dollars. Yeah, he's not wrong about that. It is a new position. It is a new position.
Deborah Feldman is also here, German-American writer, political commentator. You argued in part one about the AfD and the Jewish community. A big foreign policy issue in Germany right now is Israel and the genocide in Gaza and the German government's position. Alice Weidel says we need to protect the existence of Israel. She says the AfD is the only protector in Germany of the Jewish people. We are, says Maximilian. What's your response to that?
Well, the anti-Semitism within the party, and above all within the party's voting base, is clearly documented. But of course, far-right parties all over the Western world are known to have discovered the power of philo-Semitism already in the 90s. This idea of we need to rid ourselves of the reputation for being anti-Semites, and the best way to do that is to show ourselves as being associated not with Jews, but with the idea of Jewish power, which is the state of Israel. It's a very thin veneer. The party itself is broken into various factions, but what we know is that philo-Semitism has been useful until now in order to legitimize Islamophobia, in order to fuel anti-migrant rhetoric, and to use against the liberal mainstream in order to convince them to move further to the right by saying that they're not protecting Jews enough.
It's a thin veneer, Deborah says. Deep down, your party members are anti-Semitic still.
Of course not. There is no. She said this is evidence. There is no evidence.
There is evidence. There was a study done by the Konrad Adenauer Foundation.
Yeah, but
they found that 1 in 5 people who prefer the AfD tend to
opponent.
agree or strongly agree that rich Jews rule the world. 6% of AfD supporters show elevated agreement with anti-Semitic statements compared to 2% of ordinary Germans.
Konrad Adenauer Stiftung is the official party think tank of our biggest competitor. I mean,
that's
to
a
ask
poll.
them about
That's
us
a poll of AfD supporters.
is nonsense. And to be honest, there is no.
Why
Look,
did you look at the comments on your
German
Instagram?
domestic intelligence blamed us for everything. They blame us also for bad weather, but among them, they blamed us for being anti-Semite. And even 2 years ago, the Kurd in North Rhine-Westphalia pushed away this accusation. So it's nonsense.
You don't think Jewish communities in Germany face a threat from far-right Germans?
No, they don't
Really?
face a threat from far-right Germans. There is not one attack against the Jewish community in Germany. I'm sorry, they blame.
So according to
attack
FAR-IS
them.
data, this federal government data, anti-Semitic violence has surged in Germany in recent years, with far-right Germans responsible for 3 times as many incidents as Islamists. And your party likes to blame Islam and
you
Islamism
should know how
for
they
everything.
count what is far-right. If you are a far-right Muslim...
Yeah, see, this is like here's the thing, right? It's like we all know, using common sense, prima facie, on its face, Muslims are not joining far-right organizations to carry out anti-Semitic attacks. Like, that doesn't even make any sense. Why, as a Muslim, would you join a far-right organization that is anti-Muslim? So we all know that the primary culprits of anti-Semitic attacks in these countries, given that they're far-right, is going to be native German citizens, ethnic Germans who have this kind of ideology. It's just undeniable. It's just common sense would tell you this. I don't So it's funny to say it's like we're going to blame anti-Semitic attacks, the rise of anti-Semitic attacks, on Muslims, but anti-Semitic attacks occur from ethnic Germans, white ethnic Germans, at 3 times the rate. And once again, he's not going to stand by the claim. He has to kind of muddy the waters, so to speak, challenge the credibility of the source. It's one strategy for sure, but it doesn't convince me.
And this is a far-right violence against Jews.
So
they don't distinguish between immigrant far-right and ethnic German far-right.
See, that's just desperate. That's just desperate. Are immigrants really far-right like that? Far-right people are nativists. They're anti-Muslim. This idea that they don't discriminate between immigrant far-right and German far-right, okay, give me a break. This is desperate. It's not even worth taking seriously.
Right. All those data from German official authorities that are concerning
3 to
us
1.
are usually nonsense.
3 to 1 far right against Islamists.
This
That's
is
what
why
the
no
official data says.
this is why
Every
no
time you
German
say there's no
believes
evidence, I give you evidence, and then you say it's all a conspiracy
yeah,
against
but
the AfD.
no German believes those numbers anymore because they know it's wrong.
Actually, 72% of Germans, as we discussed at the top of the show, think your party's a danger to democracy. You accepted that they believed the data. You can't have it both
You're
ways.
not the strongest party, and
You're the strongest party in a country that is a multi-party democracy. You're at less than 30% nationally. Let's go to our audience who've been waiting patiently here in Conway Hall. If you have a question, do raise your hands. Wait for the microphone to come to you.
There's around 12,000 Syrian doctors in Germany, which makes them the largest group of healthcare professionals in the country. Many of them work in remote areas like East Germany. And I'm wondering, how will you prevent the collapse of the healthcare system if you deport these Syrians?
We don't deport doctors. It's very easy.
I thought the AfD is very keen on repatriating Syrian refugees.
6,000 are naturalized, right? So it's absolutely clear that we don't repatriate naturalized persons. So we talk about 6,000 that are not naturalized yet, right? And when they are doctors and they are integrated and they have a job in a hospital.
So hold on, you think Syrian
are,
doctors are doing a great job helping Germany?
Yeah, my brother is a director of a hospital in a rural area. And I talked to him and he said, we now have 2 Syrian doctors, works fine.
Okay, so why have you spent years complaining about Syrian refugees? Complaining about Angela Merkel, complaining about invasions, complaining about great replacement?
Because not every Syrian refugee is a doctor.
Okay, so you keep the Syrian refugees. You know that most refugees in Germany, 70% work in high-skilled professions. They're not in low-skilled professions.
No,
That
that's
is true.
70%? I saw something like that. I thought it was like, it was between 50 to 70% estimated. I don't know.
70% of refugees? No.
70% of working refugees.
That's pretty impressive, though. If 70% of Syrian refugees work in high-skilled jobs, I'd be surprised.
Who are able to work.
Yeah, and 50% are not working and are on welfare. And they cost a lot of money.
And many of them are in restrictions. You know that.
We have the second highest
What
number
are you
of refugees
going to do
worldwide.
when you run out of workers? I know you're very anti-migrant.
It's too much. You cannot blame us for to lower the number of people
immigration is down in
in.
Germany. It's hugely down, and you know this.
No, because they don't count the families who come down. They only is down is the
immigration is down by almost half. In December, more people left Germany than arrived. Let's go to the gentleman here. Yes, second in.
We haven't heard so much about your policy towards the United States and Donald Trump. What is your party's policy to the US? Aren't we entitled to think that you're advocating not the greatness of the German nation, but its subjugation to these global oligarchs and tyrants?
Okay, Donald Trump is the most successful example of a right-wing movement changing politics. So obviously, for us, he's an example because we see how he gained power and how he could make a base that could win elections. More, we know that Donald Trump and his administration admires Germany. J.D. Vance made great speeches when the government went after us. Both Marco Rubio and his deputy foreign minister made public statements to defend us. So we see ourselves among all the right-wing parties in Europe as MAGA's greatest ally. And I personally think that Donald Trump is a man who brings the right change into the world, despite all the deficits I see too.
You mentioned Trump. One thing I always find about Trump is that he's fine with foreigners abroad. He loves going to Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, China. He loves foreign dictatorships, but he doesn't like immigrants at home. And that seems to be the case with your party as well.
No, look, the left is doing endless wars against the whole world.
Donald Trump just launched a war against Iran.
Iran is a problem, but the right wing tries to have diplomacy. Our approach is not endless war in Ukraine, endless war in...
Oh, this is ridiculous. This idea that like the right wing is the side of peace, it doesn't even pass the most basic acid test. It doesn't hold up to even the littlest bit of scrutiny. I mean, what are we talking about? George W. Bush, a conservative, did the war in Iraq, okay? Trump, since 2025, has bombed Yemen, he's bombed Nigeria, he's bombed Somalia. They threatened an invasion on Cuba, threatened an invasion of Canada, threatened an invasion of Greenland, started a war with Iran, and Trump has also, and all these other European countries, by the way, have overseen the I don't know, what is it? 20 to 30,000 people who have died in Gaza and Lebanon, multiple failed ceasefires since Trump came to power in January of 2025 on his inauguration day. So what are we talking about? And we've given them anywhere an estimated $20 to $30 billion in aid and military support to Israel since Trump came to power. The right wing is the party of peace. Where? By what metric? Like I said, Yemen, Somalia, Nigeria, Venezuela, threats against Denmark, well, tariffs against Denmark, threats to invade Greenland, threats to invade Canada, threats to take over the Panama Canal, the war in Iran, overseeing the ongoing war in Gaza, which claimed the lives of 20,000 people at least since 2025, and the at least 2,000 plus people who have died in Lebanon. At this point, it's more. Since Trump came to office, he's overseen thousands of people die in the Middle East. He still hasn't shut down their campaign. Donald Trump, the right-wing president of peace, where? Where? That's just an absolute pipe dream.
Syria, endless war in Afghanistan. Our approach is peace. We don't want to have endless wars.
But not in Iran.
Iran is, when Iran has begun in February, I'm optimistic that it will end very soon, but you're right, Iran is a sin.
Let's go to this gentleman here in the second row. Let's wait for the microphone to come in, and then we'll go to the back.
Britain was able to rescue itself from the EU through Brexit. Will Germany be able to rescue itself, get out of the EU?
Before I came here, I was today in the House of Lords, and I met with Lord Glassman, who is a Blue Labour Lord, and we agreed that the EU will collapse within the next 5 to 10 years. AfD is the only party who's prepared for that. And of course, there will be no EU in 10 years.
You think the EU will be gone in 10 years?
Bring my word, bring it to the bank.
And the AfD government would pull out of the EU, just to be clear.
The EU is now the most economically weak, less innovative, demographically collapsing, big room and big space in the world. We don't have AI. We don't have innovation, we don't have, and we don't have growth. So of course, such an area, such a construct must fail, it will fail, and we will be happy about
Maximilian, did I imagine you just said it's demographically collapsing?
It's overaged.
And how do you deal with the overaging population?
First, increasing productivity, reforming the pension system, and making clear that people should count. We need families and children.
No serious economist in Germany or beyond doesn't believe that immigration isn't a part of dealing with an aging society.
The immigration we have.
That's why every serious German economist is attacking your party.
No, you cannot say. The immigration we have has higher costs and benefits. If we only have immigration of people who are skilled, Syrian doctors, if we only get Syrian doctors, welcome. But if I get 50% of Syrians in welfare, it costs more than 10,000 doctors bring.
That's not true.
It's math.
Okay, can we get the numbers straight? I mean, we have the official numbers. 51% of so-called citizenship money receivers in Germany are non-German passport holders. Yes. So I mean, the cherry picking of numbers, and you did this yourself, Mehdi. You say, well, of those Syrians who have a job, it's high qualified job. Yes, but that's at the given time right now, a very small percentage.
Let's go back to the audience. I said I'd go to someone at the back. Deborah, I will come back to you. Gentlemen there. Yes, you want to stand up?
Nearly every country has a scheme whereby if you are wealthy enough, you can get citizenship by buying a property or investing in a business. Does citizenship for sale make a mockery of true, substantive, political, equal citizenship?
First of all, Germany does not have such a scheme, and it would not make sense because our taxes are too high. So if you are rich and you become a German citizen, you are very stupid. That's the first thing. Second is, citizenship and traditional ethnicity go out. And this is why we have to distinguish. And you're right, the more we have such schemes, the lower is the value of citizenship. Finally, you see that citizenship becomes a purely legal model, and this is why communities become more and more important.
When you say in your book, decency, honesty, and trust can only be gained if peoples maintain their ethnic makeup, do you stand by that?
If you have a need, then you probably need a group that helps you. And this is something you find
That's not
with
what you wrote,
people who
though.
are close to you.
You wrote, decency, honesty, and trust can only be gained if people maintain their ethnic makeup. Right-wing politics, you wrote, commits itself to the people, which is more than the community of citizens.
Yeah, exactly. You have the community
not exactly
of citizens,
at all. That's not what
and
people
within
believe.
the community of citizens, you have ethnic groups. You have it in the UK,
So you can have, hold
and
on.
they help you.
So you can have multiple ethnic groups and communities
Yes.
who are
Citizens.
So multiculturalism, you're fine with that?
It's not much. I don't like it.
You just described a group of different, multiple ethnic communities.
No,
could all
but
be
this is the
living.
reality.
I'm in favor of the reality.
That's
You're the
the
one who's trying to take us back in
That is
time.
the reality that is a deep problem. We have people in need, and we have to manage it. So we have to change politics that people have a hope, and they can only get their hope if they have people who
promised I'd
help
get
in
back
need.
to
This is the
Deborah.
right-wing approach.
All this talk
This is the problem, and this is the thing with these like right-wing populists. Like there is no continuity to their positions, no continuity to their ideology. It changes based on who's in front of them. It's like, what is your one day you're defending Hitler, you're defending the SS, you're saying not everybody a part of the SS was a criminal, you're saying that Germany or all for the German people, this kind of like neo-Nazi quotes. You're going to remigration conferences with people like Martin Sellner. Your different factions of your party are being closed down because they're too far right. They're not in line with German law. And then the next day you're defending multiculturalism. You're like, what do we like? You're moderating your position on remigration. You're saying we don't even agree with the definition of remigration. Like, which one is it? This is my problem with all these right-wing populist parties. It's like, we need some consistency. I need to know exactly what you stand for. I need your rhetoric to be consistent. I need your positions to be consistent. It's just like, bro, it's like, what are you aiming for? Are you aiming for remigration? We want to deport all ethnic minorities? Are you saying we just want to assert the primacy of German culture in the German state to kind of encourage and incentivize assimilation into the Volk? Are you saying multiculturalism is fine? We're going to have different, we're going to have a community of citizens, and then within the community of citizens, we're going to have different ethnic groups with different cultures. Like, what are you aiming for? What exactly is your position? Which one is it? Mass remigration, mass deportations, forced assimilation, or is it going to be, we're just going to maintain the status quo, and it's going to be a community of citizens, and within that community of citizens, it's going to be different cultures and different ethnic groups that have to share power and coexist. Like, what are you aiming for? What are you pushing for? I don't know. That's why I get irritated. No consistency. Always the maximal rhetoric. We're going to be as based as possible. We're going to be as extreme as possible. We're going to associate with all these different far-right figures. And then the moment shit gets hot, we're going to get cold feet and we're going to retreat all the way back to the center. I can't stand it. I cannot stand it.
about remigration isn't actually about remigration. So when the AfD first came out with this remigration scandal, the mainstream says things like, oh, wait till the AfD finds out that they don't have anyone to clean their toilets. There's an attitude across the board in German society that migrants are here to be an underclass. They're here to perform menial labor. They shouldn't be integrating because then they'll threaten our power, our dominance. What the AfD is suggesting with talk around remigration is a kind of intimidation and a legitimization of techniques designed to keep migrants in Germany in the underclass. That's really what this is about.
Remigration is not about remigration. So what have you talked about the first part of this show? I mean, you see how these accusations are simply nonsense.
When you say immigration is not about integration into the German cultural community, it's about its destruction. That is very inflammatory rhetoric.
Integration means integrate in the community of citizens. Take an example, you come from, I don't know, Turkey, then you should maintain also your language and your ancestors and your traditions.
You see, like maintain your culture, maintain your religion, maintain your heritage, maintain your traditions, but also come here and adopt parts of German culture. So you're going to be bicultural. It's like, this is what we're already doing. This is what liberal societies are already encouraging. Like, I know in 1898 here in the United States, there was an act of forced assimilation where the Wisconsin state legislature banned public schools from teaching German and forced German immigrants in the United States, in Wisconsin, to teach all their courses in English. And if they didn't, their diplomas or their certificates, their graduate credentials would not be recognized if the classes were taught in German. That's an act of forced assimilation. Banning the burqa, banning the niqab, that's an act of forced assimilation. This guy is just saying, we're going to amplify the rhetoric and demonize you and attack your culture and attack your religion. But all while that's happening, we're still going to allow you to maintain it even while ginning up all this animosity towards it. It makes no sense. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, if you're going to attack them and attack their religion and attack their culture, give them an alternative. He's saying we're going to attack your religion, attack your culture, and then still allow you to maintain your religion and your culture, all while we attack it and gin up all this hostility towards you. It doesn't make sense. Makes no sense. Like, at that point, you might as well just take the liberal option, where we're just going to have a community of citizens where everybody is equal under the law and everybody has their own ethnic communities, their own culture, their own religion, and we all exist as equals in this kind of liberal social order. There will be no forced assimilation. There will be no top-down efforts to ensure that. And we're going to defend your culture and allow you to defend your culture against the right wing when they attack it. You're saying we're going to allow you to have your culture, allow you to have your religion. We're all going to exist as equal citizens in the kind of community of citizens. We're going to tolerate multiculturalism, but from the right wing, we're going to constantly use you to fearmonger. It doesn't make sense. At that point, let's just take the liberal option. I don't get it. It's like, what is your position? Is it remigration? Is it forced assimilation? Is it tolerate liberal multiculturalism? This guy doesn't even know his own position. That's why I lose my mind with these people. They just feel so fraudulent sometimes.
You should not give up everything that makes you human. So a migrant comes into a country and then he keeps, of course.
Okay, but if that is how you feel, if they should keep what makes them human, if they should keep their tradition, their culture, then why are you constantly attacking them? Why are you constantly attacking Islam? It just doesn't make any sense.
He has learned at home, but he takes also what he finds in the new place.
That's what you support?
Yes, he should
That is
not.
literally the definition of multiculturalism.
Literally.
Okay, last question.
Literally.
Yes, Green, do you want the
It's like,
microphone?
what?
You seem to have quite an incessant focus on ethnic makeup, and I would ask, what purpose does that serve other than perpetuating division amongst the German people?
Because people are not purely individual. I give you your dignity and your dependency back by giving you bonds that are independent from the state. The state is not your mommy and your daddy. The state often is hostile to you, but if you have bonds to your family, to people who are close to you, to share the same beliefs and traditions, then you become a strong, independent person with your own dignity. This is the right-wing approach, and this is what I...
So you're basically saying we don't want assimilation. You're saying the state should stay out of it, and we want to empower these different immigrants to have their own community where they can be independent and strong in their family, in their traditions, in their ethnic kind of atmosphere. So then what is the point of attacking them all the time? Is it just to scaremonger? This is what I mean. It just sounds like bullshit. It sounds like none of these people are actually willing to do what is necessary to implement their actual ideology, you know?
stand for.
Last question. Right now there's a trial going on of 3 former AfD members. One was a city councillor, 2 were party members.
Yes, it's because
They're on trial for plotting to coup the state government and replace it with a Nazi-style state. Do you understand why, when people hear stories like this, they are so worried about your party?
No,
You are
they
leading
are
in the
not
polls,
worried.
and they're worried about. They shouldn't be worried when they hear
not worried.
that there was a plot to build a Nazi state in Saxony.
3 years ago, there was a nationwide plot to overcome the government and to make the coup d'etat. This plot, officially plot, was maintained by people who were mostly older than 65. They had not a real bazooka or a machine gun.
I'm
they
not
had
saying
nothing.
it was going to be successful.
We
I'm saying,
call
should they
it-
be worried
we
that
call it
people
the
with that
coup
ideology
d'etat.
are serving in your
This is
party?
the typical bullshit our opponents bring. They don't have arguments against me. They don't have arguments against our party. So what they invent accusations and coup d'etats and anything like this. There has never been a real coup d'etat in Germany. Look, the country is in crisis. We have to talk about politics. We have to talk about humanity, about dignity, about how to change it. And what we're talking about.
Okay, but you say the country is in crisis and then you defend multiculturalism. You defend the status quo. You say we're not going to do anything radical. It's like, and I get it, you're walking on eggshells, partially, but you actually have to present a real alternative that is well thought out, other than just being inflammatory 24/7. This is why, like, I just, these people are just so shallow. Like, when you actually press them, they're very shallow. They don't have any kind of like ironed out ideology. It's just a list of grievances. They don't have any real, they have no alternative paradigm. Like, they don't have a vision. Where is your vision? How are you going to overturn the liberal international order without a vision to replace it with? You don't have one. You have nothing. All you have is complaining about immigrants, complaining about multiculturalism, complaining about the collapse of Western civilization, complaining about refugees, complaining about, you don't have anything. You don't have any kind of ideological substrate. That's why the moment you press these people on anything, they collapse. That's why I get sick of these people, man. It just feels like they're bullshitters.
About fake accusations.
What you
Trick
call
of the
fake,
left wing
what other
to
people
prevent
say.
to keep their power. And I want to challenge that power to
Maximilian.
make Germany a better country, and I wish you that you will have a better UK too.
Maximilian Krah, we are not going to agree on very much. I appreciate you coming here and taking my questions. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you to our audience here in London's Conway Hall. Thank you to our panel of experts. Head to Head will be back on Al Jazeera very soon. From me, good night. Thank you.
Okay, well, that's it. I mean, and this is the problem. Like, this guy is a representative for the right wing. This guy's a representative for the right wing in Germany. Like, the actual alternative, supposedly. The far right. He's the representative for that. And it's like, the more you actually scrutinize and investigate these people, you realize intellectually, philosophically, they're shallow. There's nothing there, no substance. It's, we hate liberals, we hate LGBTQ plus issues, we don't like immigrants, we don't like Islam, we need to restore the traditional family. But you don't have any foundational philosophy to challenge the core tenets of liberalism. You don't have anything. You don't have an ideological or philosophical substrate that can shatter the liberal paradigm. Without that, all of these things are just stopgaps, temporary solutions. Like, that's why it's like, you need something more. You need to actually fundamentally change the paradigm, challenge the liberal paradigm, challenge its presuppositions and its assumptions about humanity. Like, you need to go big or go home. How are you going to get up here on a huge platform with the ability to defend your worldview and you resort to supporting multiculturalism? It's like, what? Now I understand why Richard Spencer is a liberal now. It's like, a lot of these people, they are intellectually shallow. There is no there there. You know? I hate to say it, but it's the truth with a lot of these people. And it's making me reconsider my positions, even if I'm sympathetic to some of their grievances. But anyways, that's all I have to say. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and share the video to somebody you think might enjoy it. Until further ado, I'm out.